Hi everyone, my name is Megan Deister and I'm an occupational therapy student, and today I am here with Joan, and she's been willing to come on and share her experiences as a care partner for her husband and kind of share those experiences and how she's navigated this new life so far. So Joan, thank you so much for being here and joining us. Um, you kind of shared a little bit about your story before we got on here. So I was just wondering if you could go ahead and maybe start by talking about some of the resources you found that have been helpful for you as you navigate this new role as a care partner.
Certainly. My first resource was through the county where we lived and was able to access a group that was all forms of dementia. Of course, at that point, we didn't know what we were dealing with, but I was able to meet with other people as caretakers a couple times a month and discuss some of the things and be able to vent, to be able to realize this is normal for what we're going through isn't normal for the situation. Uh, Through that, became aware of another resource. Someone met with me and told me about another group. And then as COVID hit, again, I found about a Zoom class, and through those caretakers, someone pointed me to another Zoom class. And when we finally moved to Kansas to be near family, I was aware that these groups existed, so I was able to find one locally, still Zoom, but having to do with the dementia that we are dealing with.
That's awesome that you were able to find those resources and that you were able to utilize those support groups, even over Zoom, and having one locally is, I'm sure, kind of added a bit of support to kind of help you feel like you're not alone and others feel similar. You did share that you have a caregiver planner, I believe is what you called it, but do you mind like maybe talking a little bit more about that and how you utilize that?
Sure. If you can. I was given this notebook, and any notebook would do, but to write down things that were occurring. I date them when a new behavior occurs. I write it down with details, and then I can refer back. If this remains in place, then when we meet with the neurologist every 6 months or talk to the psychiatrist every 3 months, then I can tell them what new things have occurred. So they'll be aware how to deal with some of that.
Do you feel like that's been kind of helpful, like a helpful way to keep track of all of the different changes that you've navigated over the years?
I find the journal extremely helpful because I don't want to dwell in the negative. I want to be able to live life as it is. Once I can put it down and date it with all the details, I don't have to keep it current in my mind. So for me, yeah, it's a very positive thing.
That's awesome. I feel like that is a good outlet too, to be able to just write it down and you have it in writing. So it's not always in the back of your mind of, I need to remember this, I need to remember this, kind of having that solidified copy of it. And kind of like you said, just being able to like let it go and, move forward until those appointments occur. I think that's a really great strategy that you've developed. And we've talked a little bit before too about your perspective and how that's shifted because you've been a care partner for a while now. Um, would you mind just kind of walking us through your perspective and how it's kind of changed over the years?
Certainly. At first, obviously, one doesn't realize it can take an extremely long time, as most of you listening to this are aware, for anything to be diagnosed. And so you have no idea. You're not sure if it's an equal situation where you're both contributing. But as you go through and you find that no, this is an illness, and then you find what the ramifications are. Uh, in my husband's case, it has to do with judgment and behavior. Then it's like, okay, what areas is he exhibiting those that I had better make sure that, you know, I'm now at the helm of the ship, shall we say, running it. And fortunately, I was already doing financial since I'm an accountant already. Trip planning is now entirely on me. Getting in touch with the financial planners, driving, been a new recent one where I will be the driver. And I was never driver for more than a couple hours, so that's a big one. Also, right at this moment, I am finding forms of transportation for my husband, so I don't have to take him everywhere, and he can still be involved in some other activities, which is healthy for both of us.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a lot of adapting to new circumstances and figuring out how you can kind of make those work in different ways. And it sounds like, as there are changes with him, you kind of find the best way to adapt and support him as well, which I think is awesome. But I'm sure that can be difficult too to balance, all of these changing things all the time and trying to find this new way. Is there anything that you do that maybe helps you balance those things, or ways that you take care of yourself?
Well, I'm a religious person, so I have that aspect. Made a decision deliberately to be involved in many areas because we've only lived in this state for less than a year, and realize that as time goes by, that my time outside the home may become somewhat limited. And so want to establish some relationships and some friendships. So I'm actively pursuing that right now. And when new things come along, there are times when I'll just throw myself a very short pity party and say, okay, how am I going to handle this one too? It's like, all right, we can do this. And just figure it out. I do have family nearby, and my goal is not to impinge on their lives until it's necessary, other than seeing them and enjoying time with them. Don't want them to step into this because they're in the midst of raising babies, which is time consuming too.
Yeah, I think finding balance is definitely something that's difficult, but I think, like you said, kind of making the most of those times outside of your home and being a little bit more intentional about how you spend that time and doing something that you really enjoy. And I think
Yeah.
it's also okay for others to feel like, they can rely on other people. It's not something that they need to do on their own. And it does sound like maybe that, having family close by can also be a big help too, and really enjoying those moments together
Yes. Yeah.
is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, spending time with young children is very stress relieving.
Especially when you're the grandparent, I'm sure.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, awesome. Well, do you have anything that, if it's someone who isn't a care partner and they've never maybe cared for someone else, what do you wish that maybe they knew about being a care partner? Or something you just want others
Um,
to maybe know about what you do and kind of the different challenges that you face?
yeah. You can't do it all. Uh, Find some support somewhere, whether it's a group like I've used, or someone to talk to, someone where you can vent, or a bunch of different ones. Find activities that find things you can both do, but you both need to be in separate areas. Have your own needs met, and at least for me, these caregiving groups and some of the things written have been extremely helpful. The don't One of the things is, getting angry doesn't help. I won't say don't get angry, but it turns out to be negative. The person is only going to respond and you're not going to get anywhere. So, uh, in these different groups, through these different resources, there are some classes probably done online now. You can learn some of these things, and you can also learn what is available and when it's appropriate. Last time I was on one of the caregiver meetings, for example, we were talking about attorneys, particularly elder attorneys, to put in place all the things one needs when one is dealing with someone who's in this situation. And now, because these people in this group live locally, I was able to get a couple names of local people to contact. It's on my to-do list yet. To say I can't get it all done at one time, but we're working on it.
It sounds like support is definitely kind of a common theme, having others that can support you, whether it's through support groups, friends and family. That definitely sounds like something that's been beneficial to you in your situation, as well as acknowledging those feelings that you feel and knowing that they are valid too. I think that's
Absolutely.
also a really big thing, is knowing that, your feelings are also valid. You might not be the one who's experiencing all of these changes, but at the same time, you're navigating a new role and you also are experiencing your own set of changes. So I think that's kind of what you touched on. I feel like that's definitely important to kind of, come to light, is to feel the feelings and that they are valid and you can navigate those and you are allowed to feel angry in situations too as well.
Absolutely. And I find, um, I know there is a caregiver group tonight, a national one, and I'm hoping to be able to join that. I have a question. And because there's 20 some people there, someone will have been in that situation, probably several of them, where just over this weekend, we were in a new location and I was busy helping someone and my husband's sitting there talking to people, new people, and about half the statements he makes are no longer true. And I'm going, yikes, but you can't tell by talking to him, which is true for most dementia patients. You can't tell that there's anything wrong with him. So what impression is being left when I'm particularly in the situation I was in?
Yeah, and I think that's, it's something important to also bring up, that you're not going to have all the answers too.
No,
And I think that's great that you find these support groups too to kind of help you navigate, to find, navigate these new situations that you don't know what to do immediately and you don't know how to respond. So I think that's also important to highlight that, your role is always changing, and, challenges that you might face in the beginning, they may shift, or, they may look different a month from now. And so being able to have this kind of support to go to and bounce ideas off of, I think it's really important to highlight. And it sounds like you really utilize that really well. And I'm really glad that, you bring that up and talk about it, because it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to need support.
yeah, and it also helps to know what's down the road. Some people love to take a trip without having planned out details. Not me. I've usually planned things out. This is a trip. What are the possibilities that might come up? And most likely, how have they been dealt with? Then it helps me not to fall into the trap that some have already fallen in as they've walked this road and come to this, because I've already had the chance to hear it and to have several perspectives on it.
That's a really great point as well. I think a lot of people do, it can be kind of make someone anxious if they don't know what's coming next, they don't know what's down the road. So I think that's another great point and another great perspective that support groups might bring. Just a whole bunch of different people navigating different challenges, but all able to come together to support one another who are navigating similar situations.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, obviously, you're on your own most of the time. Um,
Yeah, so it's okay to do things for yourself. It's kind of another thing it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah,
It's
you've
okay to
got
take
to.
that time.
Yeah,
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 for
yeah.
sure.
And there's, I'm still trying to find like daycare options, and that can include just a civic center where they've got games going on or something. It doesn't have to be a true, you know, thing where at this point later on he'll need more. Uh, so
Yeah, just
it's just a,
navigating
yeah.
things. Yeah.
And every time, though, I will say, every time something new happens, it's just oh, not expected.
So how do you, when you talk about like something new and unexpected, how do you kind of process that to navigate through that and work through those situations that are unexpected?
Well, first of all, it's kind of like for those who've raised teenagers, a situation will come along and you go, got to deal with it, don't know how. So step back. At first, I react, step back, say, okay, if this occurs again, what am I going to do? Not to be so reactive, but it would be more appropriate, or do I take this over so it doesn't happen again? Is it serious enough?
That's a great comparison, just the process of kind of analyzing that situation and taking a step back after that initial reaction and
Mhm.
kind of seeing what you can maybe do differently, what worked well, what didn't work well, and going from there. I think that's a really great process. And I think that's definitely beneficial to kind of hear out loud, to see something maybe a little more tangible as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
Um, but before we wrap up, I do you have any last words of advice for other care partners who are maybe navigating the situation in the beginning or maybe just having a difficult time?
Well, for me, it's reach out, um, look for alternatives. There will be times when you need breaks. You need alternatives. You need someplace where, as they call them, your loved one, the person can be safe without you being present. So you can be home, go away, whatever it is you need to do. Um, and don't take it out on yourself. You didn't do this, neither did that person, but you didn't create the situation. So you just have to deal with it like any other illness and take care of yourself so you don't also end up a victim.
That's great advice. And I really appreciate you sharing all of your words of wisdom and different perspectives and things that have worked for you so far. I think it'll definitely be beneficial for others to hear from your experiences as well. So thank you so much, Joan. I really, really appreciate you being willing to be open and honest and have this conversation with me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Megan, and to the rest of you that get to hear this. Thank you for taking the time. And remember, there's a bunch of us going through this at any one time.
Yes, for sure. You're not alone in that. Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate you doing this. It really means a lot.
Okay, thank you, Megan.